Deep in the heather-strewn hills and glens of the Scottish Highlands lives many a beautiful woman. But only some are as deadly as today's subject, the alluring Bhavanshi. The Bhavanshi is a vampiric female creature from Scottish folklore. They are similar in nature to the classic succubi and vampire, without the fangs. Although where succubi and vampires tend to want many things, such as power, wealth, and youth, Bhavanshi wants only one thing: blood. The Bhavanshi is a withdrawn creature that will seldom if ever enter towns or villages. They are generally said to inhabit the forests of the Highlands, which is where they seek their prey. The Bhavanshi is commonly thought to take the form of an attractive young woman. Yet they are known to be shapeshifters, so a reliable description cannot be found. Some say that she appears always with a cloak of green fabric. Others say she appears naked and dances through the woods. Most stories agree that the best way to tell if the beautiful woman you have seen is a Bhavanshi is to look at her feet. The Bhavanshi are thought to have cloven hooves that betray their otherworldly existence. The Bhavanshi is known to attack men, and most commonly young hunters, who, blinded by their lust and the image of the beautiful woman in the woods, would become pliable to the Bhavanshi's whims. She would invite the men to dance with her in the dark moonlight, and through some form of magic or enchantment, her ethereal movement and mystic dance would lull the men into a drunken dreamlike state. At this point she could easily overpower the weakened men, then slit their throats with her sharp talon-like nails, abruptly waking them from the hypnotic frenzy just to feel their life slip away. The Bhavanshi would then begin her crimson feast, and drink of the blood she had spilled. It was said that the Bhavanshi had keen senses, especially that of smell. In fact, it was thought that the scent of fresh blood from the hunter's kill would often attract the bewitching damsel of the forest, and ironically, spell the same fate for the hunter. Concerning the shape-shifting nature of the Bhavanshi, some things were noted. First, the Bhavanshi favoured the form of a wolf, a large hooded crow, or raven when hunting her prey. In animal form, her power was diminished, but it granted her the ability to observe and some say protect her forest home from the men. Tales tell of women out in the forest alone at night being approached by a beautiful creature with a long emerald green dress. Hypnotized by the bewitching vision, they would follow deeper, only to re-emerge covered with blood and transformed into a new sister for the Bhavanshi. One lucky hunter, who escaped the captivating enchantress, told that he had heard a strange accented voice only within his mind during his harrowing encounter. It is thought that the Bhavanshi can communicate with some form of telepathy and comprehend most any language. The Bhavanshi have a few known weaknesses. The first is their detest of sunlight, which is said to burn their pale white skin. During the sunlit hours, they seek refuge in burial chambers and coffins, only rising at night to feed. Some stories say that a Bhavanshi would only rise to feast once a year. It was known that constructing a stone cairn over the grave of the Bhavanshi would stop them from rising ever again. Their second great fear was iron, which is the only substance known to cause them harm. This is true of many fairies and enchanted creatures. It is for this reason that tamed horses were a constant source of anxiety for the Bhavanshi due to their iron-shod hooves. One of the most famous tales of the Bhavanshi was told by a Mr. Donald Mackenzie, collector of Scottish folklore. It begins with 4 young men out hunting in the woods. Being a fair distance from any town or village, they were forced to shelter for the night within a shailin, which is a kind of empty, small, brick-built hut found in Scotland, commonly within remote and wild areas of the Highlands. As the men lit a fire and had a meal, they began to drink. There was a call for music. One of the men started to sing a well-known song, while the other 3 began dancing and making merry. All of the 3 dancing men thought to themselves, How wonderful it would be if they had some dancing partners. Almost as if someone could read their thoughts, there was a knock at the door. Once opened, 4 green-cloaked women could be seen, standing at the entrance to the Shaolin. They claimed to have been travelling, gotten lost and required shelter for the night. The men were quick to welcome the 4 ladies into the hut. The women asked about the song they had heard as they approached, and the men told them of their wish for dancing partners. The women looked overjoyed, and 3 of them gladly took part, while the 4th sat near the singer. When the dancing began, the 3 removed their cloaks, and each of them wore a magnificent emerald dress. The men could now see the women in full. Their awe-inspiring features and radiating eyes had the 3 dancing men entranced. As the dance became slower, and the bodies of the men and women moved closer, and in time with the hypnotic rhythm, suddenly, the singing man saw drops of blood on the Shaolin floor. As he looked up, one of the dancing men's throats had been cut. His partner took on a more demonic presence, her hands now like the razor-sharp talons of a hawk. With a start, the man shot up and screamed, then saw the green-clad woman, who had been sitting next to him, rising to give chase. As fast as the man could, he bolted to the door and ran out of the Shaolin, the infernal female hard on his heels. With no hope of outrunning the beastly woman, he dived beneath the horses, tied to the side of the hut, closed his eyes, and waited for death. But nothing came. Slowly, as his eyes reopened, he saw the woman was circling the horses and himself in an almost animalistic manner, a haunting expression on her face, but she would not come any closer. Not knowing how he was still alive, yet alone safe, the man didn't move the rest of the night. He just lay beneath the horses and stared at the enchanting creature waiting to kill him. Just before the sun began to rise, he saw all the women leave the hut. Once he was certain they had gone, he got up and rushed inside the Shaolin, only to find the 3 desecrated bodies of his friends, each with their throats cut, chests ripped open, and drained of all blood. He made it safely back to town, and recounted his harrowing tale of when he met the Bhavanshi. There is another similar tale, in which 4 men rest in a cave for a night. 3 of the men wish for a beautiful woman to spend the night with them, but the 4th man, who was accompanied by his hunting dog, said that this was no place for women, and that he was glad that his wife was safe at home. Just then, a group of radiant young women entered the cave and began to seduce the men. Well, all the men apart from one. He would not be unfaithful to his wife, and disregarded the bewitching woman. During the night, the Bhavanshi killed and drained the blood of the 3 men. But as for the last man, he made a bold stand, with his back against the cave wall, and his trustful hunting dog barking and snapping at any of the hellish women who dared come close to his master. The Bhavanshi were eventually chased from the cave, and the man and his dog returned to his wife. Many things can be said about the real-world origin of the mythological Bhavanshi. Some tales say the Bhavanshi are actually deer spirits or goddesses who would punish hunters that had not performed the correct rituals or offered an adequate sacrifice to the spirits of the forest. There is some substance to the stories that the Bhavanshi were created by the Christian Church, which was expanding into Scotland at the time. The tale was told to give men fear of joining the Fairies' dance, or being unfaithful to their marriage vows. Either way, it was to uphold the new Christian belief system. But most people believe these terrifying creatures were invented by women, married women in fact, to keep their menfolk from sleeping with young, beautiful, yet strange women during far-off hunting trips. Many times, these men were told never to leave their horse while travelling, especially if you see an attractive woman. She could be a Bhavanshi, and your horse's iron hooves would protect you. Thank you for listening.